Email is up there. Thank you, Janine.
This meeting is being live.
Okay, got it. Let me copy paste it.
In live streams as well?
Yes.
Apparently
On
we can do
Facebook?
that.
On Facebook? Email is up there. Yeah, on YouTube.
Adrian says YouTube. I think it's not live on YouTube.
Got it. Let me copy paste it.
Oh, okay.
I can hear
I found a
myself.
position where I can stay in my email. There you go. I can stand now.
Yes.
On Facebook? On Facebook?
There is an echo. Somebody has
Yeah.
an echo here.
Oh, it echoes off.
Bill, Laura, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, everybody. I was about to say good morning. When I say hi, everybody, it automatically comes out as good morning. But it isn't morning for most people, I think, unless you're joining us from Europe, in case that good morning. For everybody else, probably good evening or good afternoon.
Good morning, New York.
Isn't it
Actually,
Good Morning America?
Right. No, I have in mind the Truman Show that says like good morning, like good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and in case I don't see you, good night, or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, can't beat some of the classic movies, can you? I actually had an Amazon Prime account and I had it for a whole 2 months, and I finally thought, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch some. I have a night off and put it on, and I got down, put it on, and after an hour of scrolling, I just like close the monitor, turn it off, push it to the side, and I just daydream and go to sleep instead. So much better going inside my own dream than trying to.
You know
Yeah,
what?
back in.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Maria.
I was saying that I have Netflix, so I 100% understand like choice paralysis, because sometimes you just want to see something and then you have like 10 different things presented to you and you spend 20 minutes looking for things and then you're like, I don't want any of this. So I'm just go to something else.
Weird.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I've got this, it'll be easy. And then after 20 minutes or so, it's like, I kept looking and I had none that. Or I had the similar thing like 6 months ago, and I ended up watching some TV show from the 80s. And
Hi, Sprinkles.
People want to see you.
Now, this was actually good because it was kind of therapeutic, because it was reminding me, and I was going into my mind, I remember watching some of these shows when I was a kid. And suddenly I started to realize, and I started to get all these epiphanies and kind of flashbacks of when I was a kid. So that's a good way to spend time if you're in the therapy or coaching world.
Good advice. I mean, I really don't watch anything. I used to have Amazon Prime back in Germany before my China time. But here in China, I don't watch anything. I need a friend who forces me to watch something. I wouldn't mind watching a movie, but I cannot even make a decision on a movie. Hey, Alicia. Hello, Catherine is still not on yet.
And Bill.
Hi, everybody.
Yes.
I can't see it. Where's the people? Oh, there you go, people. I see people now.
Yeah, I hope that my kitties are going to be nice, not too crazy behind me.
Janine, did you want to go first, or you want me to kick off with
I think you're going to start. That's what you said. You're the boss, Adrian.
Wonderful, but I really like that you have the PPT open, because I don't have it.
I have 0 slides, so.
Good. I'm glad Janine's prepared a couple. Just letting you know, it is prepared. We know what we're talking about. We just
don't have slides. I think that's okay.
I think most people nowadays, we're so overwhelmed by slides, and we think it is a standard nowadays. Probably you guys would agree it's sometimes nice to not have any slides anymore.
I was doing a presentation for some Crown Leadership Australasia group, and it was kind of all these like top-notch speakers, but it was a free event, so like it really wasn't that much. And they've been calling me up for years, and I'm like, how much? And they're like, it's free. It's like, no, how much are you going to pay me to turn up? And eventually I turned up and did this thing for free, and then the whole day was just PowerPoints, and you couldn't even see the speaker most of the time. And then it came to my speech, and I was the only person on the day that didn't have slides. But the night before, I had these boring slides, and I just kept turning them off and talking. And then I had like 20, 30 people there, all black screens. It was rather challenging. But it's those challenges that allow us to step outside the comfort zone and move forward. So I'm wondering, Janine, Maria, just before we get started, when was the last time you guys were challenged?
Ooh, I'm currently challenged a lot.
Lovely.
I was
Maria,
about to say- I was about to say, does 2 hours ago count?
yes, it does. And I know you went through some massive challenges the way you were expanding in some new areas, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. And that was absolutely phenomenal. So guys, Adrian here, thank you all for coming. And I'm wondering, when was the last time you were challenged? Please write in the chat window, when was the last time you were challenged? Because today we're talking about going from good to great, and obviously an essential ingredient here is being challenged. So just curious, when was the last time you were challenged? It doesn't matter if it was challenged getting out of bed or it was challenged with work, but when was the last time you felt challenged and stretched? Thanks for those beautiful answers in the chat window. Now, today's session, we're going to talk about going from good to great. And I'm very excited to share this with you because this is something very dear to my heart. And I asked Janine and Maria to come and collaborate on this. We did a topic just like this about 2 months ago, and it was a great success. And I had some insight in there, which I'll share with you in a moment. Now, for those that don't know, I was a little bit lucky. In my first kind of 8 years of professional work, I was able to kind of do all right financially. I was able to save and invest my money and got a substantial return, meaning I was kind of financially free before I was 30. So I had some success with investing. And I thought I was going pretty all right. But I met this girl called Leslie, and she told me I had the EQ of a rock. I was totally unaware of it. I didn't know why I wasn't quite getting the greater results I desired in life. But then it hit me in the face. Now, I know we got to be open, and luckily I was open to new possibilities. And I want you to keep this in mind. It's important to always be open to new possibilities. And that was back around 2006. So I got smacked by this girl in a book, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And I was very lucky to be in a position where I was open. And I took the book and I gave it to my mum. And about 6 months later, I picked up the book myself and started to read it. And that's when I realized something, you know. And I don't know if you guys have seen that. Has anyone seen the 4 levels of learning before? Sure, Maria has seen it. So here are the 4 levels of learning. So I had financial intelligence, and I thought my financial intelligence was high. But when it came to emotional intelligence, I was unconsciously incompetent. I was unconsciously incompetent. I had the EQ of a rock. I didn't even know it. But the day that I opened up my mind and realized, the day I opened up to the thought of, hang on, I don't quite have the skills yet in EQ, that day I became consciously incompetent. And that is actually a major step. So now I realized I was incompetent with some EQ stuff. I realized I wasn't good with the emotional world. I realized I was pretty clueless with a lot of emotions. But I started the awareness process and I gained some conscious competence. I started to gain conscious competence, and with a bit of practice, a bit of focus, a bit of drive, I was able to consciously do some really basic EQ stuff, like listen empathetically, start getting more control of my emotions, continue the work, continue getting into NLP, mindfulness and stuff. And I stepped up to this lovely area of unconscious competence. Unconscious competence. And today I'm a coach, trainer, right? I've been doing this for a while, so I've achieved unconscious competence in a lot of these skills where I previously had no awareness. Now, I want you to think about this. How competent are you at reading? How competent are you in reading eye movements? How competent are you in tracking how fast someone blinks? How competent are you in getting full brain activation? Okay, now eye movements are a wonderful thing. We all communicate and we use all our facial expressions as well as eye movements. So these open up a whole new realm of possibility. Yet probably 99% of the population are unconsciously incompetent about it. Some people get up and they watch a YouTube video where they do some training, but if they don't activate and fully embody the learning, that they go back down. So learning eye patterns is a way, is something you can improve and step up on in. When you present your ideas, how good are you at really tuning in to the energy in the room? And are you able to focus on someone in the back of the class and at the same time maintain full peripheral awareness of everything going on in the sides? That is a skill, and you can step up in that. In your job, in your life, in every area of life right now, in every area of your life, there are things that you have unconscious incompetence in. I was lucky. I was insulted heavily by Leslie, saying I had the EQ of a rock, but I was always open to new possibilities. We doing all right, guys? I'm checking. Good. Now, you may have heard I was kind of competent in investing. Wasn't like super, but I was competent. About a year or two after I met Leslie, and I remember being in the Afghanistan desert, walking along one day with my offsider, young 21-year-old boy, Josh. Josh, 21-year-old, told me, the stock market's going to crash. Now, although we're in Afghanistan, I do a bit of a smart job. I had computers and laptops and stuff, big, bulky ones. You know, we had like mobile phones, which looked like bricks. But anyway, 21-year-old is telling me the stock market's going to crash. What the hell do you know? But always open to new possibilities, always open to new ideas. So I asked him, what the hell do you know? Turns out his brother was in Wall Street, an Australian in Wall Street, saw things a bit differently. That was mid to late 2008 at the crash. Moral of the story, always be. Now, a month ago, or maybe 6 weeks ago, we did a workshop together. Janine and Maria and we did a workshop on accelerated learning. All right. Now, I know this stuff. I read some books on this stuff. So what do I do when these guys are presenting? What do I do? I'll tell you what I do. I took notes. I took notes. And I'm a little bit sad because I tore it out of here. But I took some notes that day and I made some changes. And I got to cross off like the changes I made. And the changes I made were big, and I ended up just tearing it off, and I just put it in the bin like a week or so ago. And I was like looking back, going, "Oh my God, oh my God!" You know, you guys asked Janine and Maria, you guys asked some questions about what we want to change in our life, how we can do some things better. You shared a couple of things about lifestyle and integrating steps to move forward and learn more efficiently. And I wrote down some notes, and it's changed the way I do things today. So Maria, Janine, thank you very much. And I really appreciate your insights and look forward to what I'm going to learn tonight from you two. So in a moment, we'll hand it over to Janine. We'll have Janine sharing 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we'll see. Janine has to run away. She's running another mastermind group. Running another mastermind. And then Maria, and then afterwards we'll have more discussion. But as we go along, please feel free to put your hand up or write questions in the chat room. We are broadcasting live on YouTube, but for those in China or those sharing deep, intimate secrets, let us know. We can pause it, but anyway, no one in China will really see it, right? This is a completely safe and open environment. Always be open to new possibilities and make sure we take some notes, because you never know when the next insight or epiphany is going to pop up. And it might be in 5 minutes, might be in 15. We'll have to wait and see. Thank you, Janine. Thank you, Maria. I really appreciate you guys coming here and making this happen.
Okay, everybody. Adrian, thank you so much for your introduction. And perfect timing, my crazy little kitten is about to jump over my laptop. So the three of us are with you here tonight. And every time I'm super excited to speak with Adrian, to learn from Adrian, because as Adrian was saying, like, even if we all present, we always learn from each other. And the coolest thing about trainings or about coaches is sometimes we ask a question. And it's not that we're actually telling you, hey, it's like this or that, or this is the answer. But we ask the question and you come up with the answer, with the right answer for you, because only you have the answer, because every one of us would answer differently. So today it's all about good to great. Adrian started talking about challenges. Before I start to share some challenges with you, I would like to introduce myself in case you don't know me. Janine Jakob, I'm the Yan in Chinese. I'm a global citizen, born and raised in Germany. I lived a little bit in France, in the US, in Finland, thanks to good hard studying and work, and now in China, in Shanghai for nearly 4 years. And I'm very excited that I founded my own company after having been with HP, the IT company. So from corporate, finding your purpose, quitting your job without any savings. I don't know if I would ever do this again though. And now I have my consulting company in Shanghai. So I'm a happiness and success coach and an intercultural consultant. Okay, that's enough about me. Let me ask you some questions. And actually, before I ask those questions, I feel like I need to share this. I probably say this over and over again, but this is so deep inside me. I totally believe that in business or life, it always takes this one person, this one deal, this one opportunity, this one right question that maybe I or someone else is going to ask you today. And this one tiny little thing can really change your life or your business completely. Having met Adrian, and he was not even in China at the time, but I gave my first ever paid workshop under my own company in Adrian's Motivate community. So indirectly, having met Adrian changed my life in so many ways. Also, when I took his NLP training last year, which was 3 years later after having met him. So yeah, be open-minded for whatever we're going to do now. And let's dig deep into the question. Number one, let me ask you, can you actually think of a situation, maybe something that happened today or the last few days ago, when you actually judged yourself? Yes, you read correctly. I'm not talking about other people. I want to ask you, when was the last time? Think about it. Get back the situation as if it was here and now when you judged yourself. Yeah, that takes a little bit of courage. It's not a pleasant feeling, I guess. Feel free to share it in a chat. Good judgment or the negative one is Golden Seed is asking. All I said is when you judged yourself. When you had this inner voice saying, well, maybe I can share with you what happened to me today. I love to talk. I don't like to write. So I have this really important thing that I need to write. And the pressure is coming higher and higher and higher. The excuses are coming higher. But at one point, it happened that this little inner voice inside me, this little devil inside my head started to say, hey, come on, Janine. You can't do that. You suck in writing. You're like, why do you think that you would be successful in doing this? I mean, everybody else is better than you in doing this. Why don't you just give up? Why are you wasting your time in doing this? Just let go of it. Like, do something different. Give up. Do you sometimes have these little voices inside your head that are constantly bringing you down, especially in these situations when you would actually need to be uplifted, when life is already challenging enough, but this little voice inside you is bringing you even more down? I assume that you all have these kind of moments. Now, let me ask you another question. Do you sometimes have these moments when maybe you actually do not even judge yourself, but bam, immediately you judge this person, you judge this situation. Ah, come on, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not qualified enough. Or think of another situation when you maybe judged a person randomly. Ah, this old person on the street begging for money. Of course, that's organized crime. Or whatever it is that happened to you recently. I really want you to take a moment and write this down, that situation that is popping up in your mind. Because very often, those are patterns. And it means that very often the same situation, the same kind of voice is going to come back in the same situation. It's a pattern. It's a program very deep inside us. So write down, try to create awareness on that situation now. Now, another question for you. Do you actually often say yes, and you agree to do things, although you actually would love to say no? I think, well, sometimes it happens to me. How about the others? Thanks for sharing, Adrian, in the chat group. Yes. So if you say yes, then it seems like there is a pleaser talking outside of you. Okay. Every weekend in Shanghai. Thank you for sharing, Catherine. Yeah, sure. Yes. Okay. It seems like there's a pleaser talking out of us. Another little voice inside our head. Now, let me ask you, does your authentic you like to procrastinate unpleasant tasks? I mean, who likes to do pleasant tasks? Like some of us, who loves to do their taxes, for example? Anybody who likes doing their taxes? Okay, I see the video, people hiding their faces. Yeah, I mean, when there's something unpleasant, it's just so easy. Let's do it later. It's okay, I can do it later. I still have a bit of time. Anybody else? And yeah, maybe some of you sometimes love to be in control in every part of your life. Anybody who's saying yes? Do you like to be in control in every part, whether it's at work, in your family, in your private life? I just saw a hand raising. Last but not least, are you perfectionist? Do we have any perfectionists in here? Wow, I see another hand. And some yeses. Okay. Most of the time, yes. So many questions. Why did we do this? If we want to go from the current level, like my coach JT, he always says, what got you to this level won't get you to the next level if you continue doing the same things over and over again. So right now we're on a level we're already really, really good. Even if we have these little voices of judge and pleaser and perfectionist and procrastination and whatever we have that is kind of blocking us. But the first step is always self-awareness. If we want to get to the next level, to great, from good to great, we need to change something. I'm not saying change is easy. You all know that. So let me share you one thing that I started working with the last 5 months, I think it is now. And this really changed my life. So I can't wait to basically introduce this more to you in depth. From good to great started for me with more awareness of all these situations when this little voice is constantly bringing me down and is constantly like sabotaging my day, my happiness, my success rate, whatever it is. So welcome to a short course about mental fitness that you guys can really unlock your full potential. Whether it's your team's potential at workplace, your family potential, or your own potential. Everything starts with you, right? Now, mental fitness or positive intelligence. What is that? Adrian was talking about EQ, emotional quotient, that he was basically blind. Now I'm talking about PQ, positive intelligence quotient. And the PQ score is basically measured on how many times per day your mind is sabotaging you and how many times per day your mind is actually serving you. Now, and remember I was speaking about these little voices. Those little voices, I call them the 10 saboteurs. And this is when your mind basically motivates you through lots of negative emotions. Like as I just said, Kitty says hi. As I just said, our mind can motivate us through negative emotions like fear or maybe stress. I gotta do my taxes. Oh my gosh, now I'm stressed out. I gotta do it. But this is motivating me, but maybe it's not healthy. I'm using lots of adrenaline and I have maybe guilt coming up or maybe even insecurity. What can happen to me if I don't do my taxes or this or this? But then on the other hand, when we talk about the positive emotions, and who doesn't like to be motivated through positive emotions? Those are our sage powers. The 5 sage powers that motivate us through positive emotions, what they all have in common is, I'm sure you've guessed it. Let me check the chat. Love. So the saboteurs, what they have in common is actually fear and versus love. Now, talking about this, as I said, everything starts with self-awareness. What I'm talking about right now is actually positive intelligence, which has a lot of research coming from positive psychology, neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and performance science. So guys, please stay open-minded and have a little bit of trust in what I'm speaking about. Now, talking about the saboteurs and the sage. Everything is going back to, for example, our childhood. With Adrian, when I did my NLP, my neuro-linguistic programming training last year, we often went back to our childhood. We have all these programs inside our minds, and a lot of them, they actually also go back to our childhood. Because here, like you can see, in the survivor brain, where the saboteurs are located, it's all about surviving. Back in the days when we were hunters and gatherers, we wanted to survive, right? But the positive intelligence brain, where the sages are located, this is really about thriving. And that's why, for example, we need those techniques like NLP to learn how to unblock ourselves, or learning how to weaken our saboteurs and strengthening our sages, what we do in positive intelligence. It all basically goes back to the same basics. We want to thrive. We want to live a successful and happy life, don't you? Now, let's talk about the 10 different saboteurs. This is just a really, really short introduction for you. I even have it in Chinese because right now it's only existing in English, but we're working on a Chinese version now. But let's find out of who are your saboteurs. Remember, we started by asking you some question, and some of you said yes to some of those. So now let's check again. Number one, the judge. Actually, every one of us, everybody who's in this call, everybody who's watching live on YouTube or wherever you are, everybody of us has this judge. Remember, I was talking about it and I said, this judge, this little voice, I like to call it this little devil inside my head, was like giving me negative emotions and was saying, no, Janine, you can't do this. You suck. You're not good enough. And it's basically this inner voice that is constantly like finding mistakes and faults inside you, but also other people and circumstances. I hope you all wrote down the situation when today or a few days ago, you actually judged yourself or other people. Because it's a program, it's a pattern. We need to create self-awareness. If you want to go from good to great, if you don't have self-awareness of your current weaknesses or what is blocking you from your performance or your happiness, then you cannot get to the next level. So find out all these patterns when you judge yourself and others. Maybe some of you also, and then basically we have the other 9 saboteurs, and every one of us has different saboteurs. So let's check step by step while we go through this. Do you recognize yourself? If yes, is this a strong saboteur inside you? Or maybe just a weaker one and just coming out every now and then? Because back in the childhood, something happened to you where you had to survive. And that's when you have some of these saboteurs that came out to protect you, to help you survive. And that's why every one of us has different ones. Maybe you're a victim. Number one, the victim focuses on painful feelings as a way of earning empathy and attention. Oh, why does this always happen to me? I'm such a poor person. Maybe that's the victim. Every one of us has a different voice. Some of us have a very strong, aggressive judge or saboteur, and others people, they may have a calmer voice inside us. And this is not about getting crazy or we need a psychologist. No. Now, I think we have a few pleasers here in this room. You already said yes earlier when I said, do you often say yes, although you actually want to say no? Yes. Those people are pleasers. They love to please, flatter, rescue others. And why do we do this? Because the saboteur, the pleaser, tells us that's how we can gain acceptance. Who doesn't want to be accepted? Now, let's come to the avoider. I asked, do we have any procrastinators in here? For example, the taxes. We love to procrastinate our taxes. I see the hands raising again. Yeah, because the avoider saboteur tells you, I mean, come on, you can procrastinate. If it's something unpleasant, just procrastinate, avoid difficult tasks or conflicts. Hey, just focus on the pleasant things. It's okay. Yeah. Now, then there is the stickler. Those are the perfectionists. And I know there's some sticklers in here too, right? Those people who really want constantly perfection and order and organization. And I'm not saying this is bad. I'm just saying that there is also a limit, right? There is a specific way when it gets too far. Then there's the restless people. They're constantly busy. Do you love to stay busy nonstop, no resting? But you're also never content with what is in the here and now. Those are the restless people. They're constantly maybe outside and doing things one after another or multitasking. Do we have any controllers in here? Controllers, this is the little saboteur voice. I see Maria, okay. This is the little saboteur voice inside us that gives us anxiety-based, it's like an anxiety-based need to control situations and even to bend other people to our own will. because we think we have to control it for the best outcome. Any hyperachievers in here? For sure, that's me. Those are the people who actually depend on constantly achieving something. But why do they constantly want to achieve something? And again, check if you recognize yourself, because they think that they can only accept themselves and they can really love themselves just when they constantly achieve one thing after another. If you want to go from good to great, you will actually never find an end if you're a hyperachiever, because there's never a great. And then there's the hyper-rational, rational processing of everything, including relationships. So those people are not really well balanced with emotions and their ratio. And last but not least, there's a hyper-vigilant. Is there a lion somewhere? Is something happening? Any shootings? They basically see danger everywhere all the time. And again, guys, I'm not judging, right? Because we're all having specific saboteurs, but everyone has different ones. So the hypervigilant is vigilance that can never rest, seeing danger in every corner. And sure, back in the days when we were hunters and gatherers, there were lots of wild animals there. But then nowadays, do we really have to be vigilant all the time? Okay, now I hope you are able to create a little bit of awareness. Remember, good, creating awareness. And now the next thing I really want to share with you is the goal in order for you to get to great is, according to science and even to the founder of PQ, Positive Intelligence, he actually worked with most of the Fortune 100 companies. His name is Shirzad Chamine. And what he tries to do in a 6 to 8 week program, whether it's individuals or companies, number one, he tries to weaken the saboteurs. Number two, working on strengthening the sages, the positive emotions that motivate you. And then number three, strengthen your PQ brain. So it's like going to the gym, right? You need to go to the gym to build those muscles. And it's exactly the same with our brain. We need to strengthen our positive muscles and create new neural pathways in our brain in order for us to easily switch from one side of the part, the survival part with the saboteurs, into the part where the sages and the positive emotions are located. And how do we actually strengthen our PQ brain? Well, that's basically through doing it's something like guided meditations, basically. Because once we focus for at least 10 seconds on one thing, for example, this one point that you're staring at and you're fully focused on this point, or maybe the sound, try to listen to the sound that is farthest away from you right now. Be fully focused on the sound farthest away from you. And now try to listen to your own breath. Be fully attentive and listen to your own breath. Or try to rub your fingertips against each other and be fully focused on how it feels when you're rubbing your fingertips against each other. Feel that physical sensation for 10 seconds. How are you feeling now? And we just did something for a few seconds. How are you feeling? Feel free to share in a chat group. Just a few seconds of distracting your mind. How do you feel now? Maybe some of you feel a little bit calmer. Oh, renewed and determined. Thanks for sharing, Golden Seed. I'm happy to hear this. And what we just did is just a few seconds, right? Calm, relaxing, and focusing. Thank you, Sugi, for sharing. Good. So those are the PQ, we call them repetitions, where you just distract your mind for at least 10 seconds. And this is when you can easily switch from saboteur mode into sage mode. But of course, it takes a little bit of practice, right? So now let me summarize what we just did. Number one, what I said, if you want to go from good to great, it's all about self-awareness. We need to really identify all these situations when our judges and our saboteurs, or maybe you want to call them devil, or however you want to call them, whenever they make our life more difficult and they ruin our happiness and our success. Write down all these situations, create self-awareness. Because once you have awareness, then in that specific situation, number two here, what I want you to do is label the saboteur. Remember in the beginning I said, Janine, that devil, that little devil is talking to you again. That's how I call my judge. And find a name that works for you. Label it. And now number three, do a PQ rep, what we just did with the touching, with the listening, with the breathing. Really distract your mind a couple of times, at least for 10 seconds. That's what science basically showed. Can already be enough for you to let go of that saboteur mind, of the survival mode, of these negative emotions that constantly motivate you. Which then brings us to number four. Now that you're calmer, or as Golden Seed said, she felt more determined. Now that you're in this state, you can switch to the other part of the brain and use the sage perspective or the sage powers. And this is like a bigger topic, but for example here, empathizing. Instead of judging the other person or judging yourself, when, remember I said, Janine, you can't do this, you suck, you're not good enough in writing. But in this moment, now I can practice empathy with myself. And there's lots of little exercises that we can do. For example, I could imagine the other person or myself as a little child. And I just imagine talking to myself as a little child, because then it's easier for me to feel empathy. Or like as if I was talking to my cats. For some people, it's easier with their beloved pets to have empathy. So yeah, there's different sage powers. And then basically now that later on, after I judged myself, I then got calmer. Then I used different sage powers on myself, for example, empathy. And then you know what? After this, I started to write. And I'm not saying it was perfect. Thanks, Maria, for applauding. I'm not saying it was perfect. I don't want to be the perfectionist, right? There's the stickler that would be talking outside of me. But you know what? I said, please excuse the word, fuck it. And let's just write. So I just started writing something. And later on, I can always change it. But at least I started doing it. And after those sage powers that grew and this love and all these positive emotions that came outside of me, they grew, they became faster and stronger inside me. It was easier for me to just write. And I'm not saying that tomorrow it won't happen to me, but I know my patterns. Here, step number 5 is, because I know my patterns, tomorrow I have to write again. So tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm already going to do my PQ reps and maybe a longer guided meditation in order to calm down my mind so that I cannot get in this negative mode and survival mode. And then I'm basically going to preempt my saboteurs, and I try to get basically directly into the sage powers with, for example, empathy and encouragement, and I use the activate and navigate sages, whatever I need, what I basically learned. And then I'm preempting my saboteurs. And then the saboteur cannot even come. And from the start, it's going to take me less of struggles in order to get into this great mode. And I hope that this was a good example for you now of how not just I, but lots of other people get from good to great with the help of either NLP, positive intelligence. And please take a screenshot of this. Take the assessment if you're not sure yet what are your inner saboteurs. It's a free online test. It takes just 10 minutes. Find out what are your strongest saboteurs. We all have them. So don't judge yourself. It's not a weakness. And yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, there's a lot of really amazing results coming out. Sugi here on the call, she's also taking the course right now. And after a few days, she already told me how she felt and how the first changes she even had in her life. A lot of companies use this nowadays to improve performance and sales, to feel happier, and so on. And in case you want to try it out and have happier, healthier relationships, I'm going to start the next 6-week program on September 11th. Scan the QR code. I'm also going to write down my email address if you want to connect with me. And I'd be happy to have you on board. All you need is a phone, English as a language, and that's it. Okay. Whew. Enough talking now, and I would like to hand it over to amazing Maria. I'm gonna disappear for a little bit, but I will be back for the Q&A session because of my Positive Intelligence Mastermind program. Sorry about that. But if you have questions now, I can also share something now. Oh, I see one question in the group. Golden Seed, you were asking, what's the opposite of being hyper-rational? Emotionally balanced? I don't know if I would say there is an opposite, because hyper-rational, it just means that, being rational, it's not a bad thing, right? We're not judging here. Hyper-rational just means it's too much, because you want to have a balance of your emotions and also of your rational mind. And so basically, like, the opposite would probably be hyper emotional, which also is a bit too much, right? It's all about like finding the balance and being more like motivated through positive emotions than too much of something that is like negatively motivating you. Yeah, practice makes perfect. I agree. Thanks for sharing, Maria. The stage is yours.
Thank you, dear. Great to share. And although I am familiar with the framework, it's always good to get reminded of how the process works. Because as Janine was mentioning, and Adrian was mentioning, from good to great is a process, right? And we might be here means whatever, and we might get here, and here means whatever. So I'm actually going to start by thanking Adrian and Janine for doing this together and reflecting on a couple of things that I would like you guys to start asking yourself. You have joined today's webinar, which means that you're interested in going from good to great. Now, in the interest of time, we can stay here to talk for hours of what good means, but because that's a starting point, we'll see that a little bit later. I would like to ask everybody here in the call one very fundamental question. What does great mean to you? What does it look like? If we want to go from here to there, we might have, thanks to tools like the one Janine mentioned, we might have a general idea what is good, what is here, where we are right now. Of course, we can always go into more depth. We can always go to analyze more ourselves, our situation, but where do we want to go? So I would encourage everybody to take a couple of seconds, a minute even, think about what does great look like for you? And if this is too big of a question, think about, dreams and aspirations you might have, people that you look up to, maybe some mentors, maybe some role models, people that you want to be more similar to. Maybe is a childhood, goal or a childhood dream of always, buying that red sports car, I don't know, or going to live on your own on the other side of the world. What does a great life with a cute kitty that climbs on your shoulders, you see Janine's very cute kitty, that might be great. You know, greatness is having a cute kitty to play with. Unfortunately, I'm allergic to cats, so I can't have that as a great dream, but maybe that's for some of you. If you feel courageous and if you feel in a sharing mood, feel free to type your greatness ideal into the chat. If not, make sure that at least you have an idea. At least you know what kind of greatness you are aspiring to. Because now the second question is, how do you get there? How do you get to great? We spoke already about self-awareness. And self-awareness is a fantastic tool. You can get more self-awareness in a variety of ways. You can use PQ, you can use meditation, you can use journaling, you can use a lot of different tools. But once you have that kind of self-awareness, and wherever you are right now, it's perfectly okay. What I want to invite you today is to get a little bit more clear on what you have to do in order to get to great. And I would like to invite you to come on a journey with me on a fun map. If I can pull it up, I will pull up a trick. There you go. Let's take a journey on the Clarity Roadmap, shall we? And if anybody has ever, I don't know, met me or heard me speak, you know that I'm a person who values simplicity and minimalism and things that are clear and easy to achieve. And unfortunately, life is not like that. So I find myself in a constant struggle between what I would like to do and achieve and what life actually throws at me. But there is something to be said about striving to get one thing done at a time. I know there's people who disagree with me. I stick by it. I think that if we want to achieve 1,000 things, we're not going to do them as well as we can. So if you guys have an idea of where your greatness is, I would like you guys to ask yourself this question. What is one goal that you can achieve to get yourself closer to that greatness? Maybe it could be learning a new language so you can move to a different country. Maybe is learning a new skill like listening or empathy or coding. I don't know. Maybe your goal is to make your first $1 million or your first $100, depending on where you're starting. Choose one goal. But most importantly, ask yourself, why? Why do you want to achieve that goal? And be honest with yourselves. If the answer is, I want to make $300 because so I can pay next month's rent, that's okay. That is your motivation and that is what's driving you. And that is how you will be able to achieve the next step. If your goal is, I want to make $1 million so I can buy a yacht, hey, good for you. I'm not going to tell you you can't buy yourself a yacht. If your goal is learning the first 100 words of Turkish, because why not? That is a goal because you want to go to Turkey. Just be honest and think of why you want to achieve that goal. And because for anyone who's ever done any sort of goal setting, deadlines and timelines are important. So if you want this goal to stop being a dream towards greatness, but something you can and will hold yourself accountable to achieve, tell yourself, by when do I want to achieve this? If it's learning 100 words of Turkish, might be, I don't know, a month. I don't speak Turkish. I have no idea how complicated it is. Maybe it's easy, maybe it's difficult. If it's making $300, maybe it's in 1 month, maybe it's 2 months. If it's making $1 million, I don't know, depending how smart you are, maybe, I don't know, a year? I'm not sure. Adrian is the financial savvy here, definitely much more than me. So you give yourself a timeline, whatever you think might work with you. So now, feel free to do this at home if you want. They're pretty simple questions. The next bit is, okay, you have your goal. What are you missing? What are the resources that you need in order to make that goal a reality? What material resources do you need? For example, do you need money to pay for a course, to learn Swedish, to learn Turkish? Do you need time to make a business, to make $1 million? Do you need access to healthy food so you can improve your health? Whatever material resources you need, write those down. What skills do you need? We said we're going from good to great. You might have a lot of skills, but in order to get to the next level, you might need more skills. You might need to improve some of those skills. You might need to polish some of those skills. What skills will allow you to achieve your goal? Do you need to start from zero on something, or do you just need to, maybe add that 20% that makes you able to achieve the next level? And because no man or woman is an island, what kind of support do you need from people around you? Do you need like-minded people, like the Motivate community, to inspire you and hold you accountable? Do you need supporting family and friends that can, bring you a bowl of soup while you study your Turkish words throughout the night? Or understand why you want to create a business so you can make $1 million? What kind of support do you need from people? And again, be honest with yourselves. If you find it hard to get that support, note that and see what other resources can allow you to get more support. Remember that online is real life. So you always have support from communities that you can find online of like-minded people. So you have a goal. Now you have identified what resources you have and you need to get in order to achieve that goal. And as I said before, if life was easy, we will be done. Fantastic. You have a goal, you have resources, done. But life is not a straight path. And even with the best plans, you will have obstacles. Anticipating those obstacles is something that you can do in order to be more prepared. It doesn't absolutely make it 100% disaster proof, but anticipating a couple of obstacles can help with the planning and can help with getting you on track. So start identifying what kind of obstacles you might find on your path to your dream goal. Could be time. Maybe your schedule is very packed and you see that I could do it, but it's going to be very difficult. Maybe is money. Maybe you need the finances in order to achieve whatever goal, and maybe finding that money can be quite challenging. Could be you have people in your life who are not supportive or who are actively trying to derail you. No shame in that. Recognizing that it's extremely important. Could be anything from the big things to the small things, but identifying the obstacles is key for the next step, which are strategies. How are you overcoming these obstacles? As Janine mentioned before, self-awareness. Awareness is a great step, but then we have to do something about it. So once you identified at least 3 obstacles, let's take a look. What kind of strategies can you use to overcome these obstacles? For example, if you tell yourself, I would really, really, really love to learn how to code, but I don't have time. Or even better, because you have time, believe me. I have a full-time job and a family of 4. I would love to, but I find myself strapped for time. What strategies can I put in place? Well, maybe instead of committing to, a course of coding, which is every day 3 hours, maybe I can find somewhere a course that is, 2 hours on a Saturday. That is something that works a lot better with the challenge I have, the obstacle, which could be time. There's so many examples that I'm not going to list them all, otherwise you'll be here until tomorrow morning. But the key part of the strategies is finding that obstacle and finding the easiest thing that you can do in order to overcome that obstacle. Don't make your life more complicated. The obstacle will always be there, but try to find what is the next step. And as I said before, no man or woman is an island. So regardless of how good you plan up to here, this is a piece of paper. Whatever piece of paper you have in front of you, if you're using your phone, your tablet, who is going to keep you accountable? You can keep yourself accountable by promising yourself that you will do it because it means to you whatever success you want to achieve. If it helps, you can ask other people. It can be your spouse, your children, your best friend, your colleague, your boss, your coach, a stranger on the internet, literally anybody. As long as you are very clear with this person that I'm going to achieve X, Y, Z by this time, please check on me. And this is an extremely important step. It's also a quite hard one to do because it feels a lot like asking for help. And a lot of people, me included, are not extremely comfortable with asking for help. But guess what? We're good because we inherently can do things. Some people are good at some things, some people are good at other things. But if we want to be great, we can't do this on our own. We really can't. Community is so, so, so important. Whether that's your small community, which is your family, your couple, your small neighborhood, your global community, it doesn't really matter. As long as you have other people who can cheer you up when things get hard, who can congratulate you when you achieve success, and can just be there when you are just tired of doing things and you just need a shoulder to cry on. So find a couple of ways to keep both yourself accountable on your own. The easiest thing is, give yourself a deadline and check out things. That's what I like to do. I like to check lists out because it's fun. But I also learned that having someone to keep myself accountable is extremely important. And those people can kick your butt sometimes, and that's very valuable. It doesn't feel good, but it's very worth it. And in order to help with that accountability process, there's a couple of things you can do, which is check-in. Schedule check-ins with yourself. What does that mean? You gave yourself a deadline, which could be next month, next Monday, 3 years from now. Try to build smaller progress reviews in the middle. If anybody who has ever done any project management knows that if you wait until the last minute to check things, you will probably have a lot of mistakes that you need to fix. If you check things a little bit at a time, you have a lot more room for tweaking. Because it doesn't matter how good you plan right now, it doesn't matter how good you are at foreseeing every single circumstance, things will change. If the last 2 years have taught us anything, is that we cannot predict anything. So plans are great, but the ability to check in and to adapt is extremely, extremely important. So when you do the review and the check-in, ask yourself 2 very good questions. And Christopher is not here today, but I'm sure everybody who's familiar with the Motivate community has heard the couple of questions that really help with the review, which is what went well and why, and what could be better and how. Ask yourself these questions to make sure that you celebrate the progress you're doing, but also you check in on what's not working, and you give yourself the time and possibility to make adjustments, because we change, people change, situations change. And sticking to one strategy just for the sake of it, it's not really smart. And then finally, whenever you're done with your check-ins, you will arrive to the celebration. The deadline you gave yourself, maybe you achieved it by then, maybe you have extended the deadline, it doesn't really matter. When you have achieved your goal, how are you planning to reward yourself? What is the plan? Is that a nice meal with your family? Is that buying yourself that, I don't know, pair of shoes or watch or anything else that people buy themselves because you like it? Is that going on that vacation you always wanted? Is that whatever? How are you planning to reward yourself? And most importantly, I had to move my Zoom commands because it was too far down. How do you feel when you have achieved your goal? this is a very, very tricky thing, because I would suggest you guys to think about how do you feel right now? How do you think you will feel by the end? You can write that down or keep it in mind and then check. Once you have achieved that goal, is that how it really feels? Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe it feels much, much better. And then, because as we said, getting from good to great is a process, what is next? Next could be more celebration. It could be rest. It could be the next goal. Whatever you want to do to get from good to great. But it's getting there that it's important. It's it's a never-ending process, and it's something that we all are doing, regardless of where we are, because you can always be, at the next level, and it's up to you to decide what that looks like and how to get there. But moving is definitely the process. And with that, I hope that the clarity map was quite useful. And this is just, a template. You don't have to follow all the steps exactly, but I hope that this gave you at least an idea of what is the process from goal setting to celebration.
Can we celebrate with a coffee? Because I like it.
I'm drinking my barley coffee, non-caffeinated beverage.
I really like this. This is great.
Thank you. Thank you. I made it.
It's good. It's one sheet. It's simple, but it has more than enough. Sensational. One goal. So you're focusing on one goal: what, the why, when. And then you're able to take yourself or sit down with someone and go through a coaching process of the resources, obstacles. Absolutely fantastic. I just got one question, and I'll see if anyone else does. But my question will be, so how often do you maybe redo it or update the map? I mean, obviously there's multiple ways. What do you find better? Should we do a clarity map each month? Or once we achieve that one, do another one? Or
it's really up to you. It depends how big the goal is. I personally find the process, I use it for every kind of goal or thing I want to achieve. Because I created this, I think this is how my brain operates, so I don't necessarily write it down all the time. But I wanted to specifically focus on one goal, because I've seen a lot of goal setting tools that just go like, find 5 goals. And I'm like, well, great. Then which one do you prioritize? Which is kind of the struggle of all the people. So if you have 5 things you want to work on different areas, maybe one is health, maybe one is business, maybe one is family, I do suggest to use this for each individual. Or you can have a few things that you do, regularly, every day, every week, and then you just choose one new goal every month, every quarter, every year. It's really a flexible tool. It can be used as often or as less often. I don't know what the opposite of often is, as you want.
Now, I've got one of these more complicated ones where I've got different sections of life and goals, and then there's like 12 months and 6 months and 3 months, but I'd be very tempted to get a copy of this printed out. And
I can definitely send you one. I'm happy to.
I would really love to do this on like my primary goal, or what is the number one goal now, and then put it on my fridge once I'm done. And that'll be
and you can go to the next one.
That'll provide so much clarity as to the actions to get that number one goal done. And all we really need to accomplish, guys, isn't it, is one goal.
I mean, I can't speak for people, but definitely I think that trying to achieve a lot of things at the same time, it might be a fun exercise to think about. But in my experience, it rarely works, especially if the goals are challenging. Because as Janine mentioned before, and as we all know from psychology, our brain doesn't like change. So trying to change 1,000 things at the same time, not helping. Golden Seed said, how about lifelong goal? It will never end. It doesn't have to. But your lifelong goal is something that, you always want to get a little bit better at. So you can use that to like break it down into smaller little steps. Adrian has that beautiful ladder behind him. don't think about the learning stages, think about your lifelong goal, maybe, to help 3 million people in some way. How do you get to the first 100? How do you get to the next 200? How do you get to the next 500? Like every big goal can always be broken down, and actually should be broken down into tiny little steps. It doesn't mean that, once you achieve it, you're done, but it's something that's always in progress. So you can always find a way to, build on what you have already achieved, if that's a lifelong goal of yours. I hope that makes sense. I forgot how to drink. Yes, Adrian, what are you? You're welcome, Golden Seed. There you go. Adrian made a pretty ladder with numbers. I don't have a whiteboard yet. I just have a boring wall that I can't write on. So Adrian is the scribe.
What would happen if you had a lifetime goal or a vision for yourself? A vision for yourself being a top quality speaker, a TED speaker, a Tony Robbins speaker, or a multimillionaire, or astronaut. And what would happen if you got your lifelong goal of being an astronaut? You wrote it up on the clarity map, even though it's a lifelong one. And maybe your clarity map focuses on the big goal of being an astronaut. And every day when you see that on the fridge, you gain the clarification of your resources, obstacles, or strategies, your accountability, your check-in, and it's going to happen. What's written down, we're more likely to stick to. And also, guys, when you write these things down, when you do your clarity map, what you might like to consider doing is, I'm sure Maria has her own way of doing this, but you get the clarity map and you write it down, put it up.
That was very interactive.
Come back.
Yeah, you can stick it on your fridge. You can stick it on your laptop. You can make this your phone desktop if you want to.
Yeah, and when you're actually doing it as well, because it's on a bit of paper, it's separate from you. And it becomes more of an objective rather than a subjective thing. And you can actually kind of put it away. And from a distance, maybe you can get a bigger picture of it. You can see a bigger picture. And then when you're up really close, you can see the small picture. So it helps you actually process. It helps you do the processing and perhaps mapping out the following weeks and months ahead. Step back, bigger picture. But it's most important that you have a process, hey?
Right. I'm gonna take this short break while we wait for questions to sit down because my knee is bothering me. So I've been standing for an hour. So sorry, people, just bear with me. Okay, well, I managed to do that without.
Okay, so we've covered the 4 levels of learning. We covered that we need to be open to new possibilities. We're open to that there's always is new possibilities. And I hope with what Janine shared that you're aware that you may have some of these little elements of yourself, perhaps hypervigilance, hyperachiever, controller, and these kind of traits. Now, these kind of traits are a nice demonstration, breaking down 11 different ways we self-sabotage, but there can be more, there can be less. We can also be sabotaging ourselves with our financial beliefs, our health beliefs, our beliefs on whether we're good or not. So there's a whole pile of ways, and I hope with Janine's work, you're able to maybe pinpoint some weaknesses. And if you have any weaknesses in any of those areas, just call up Janine, Maria, or myself. Yeah, you can do assessments, or I would much prefer don't go getting on assessments. If you're identifying that stuff, get on the phone. Call up Janine, Maria. Say, hey, can you take me through this thing? And if we ask someone to take us through that thing, well, we're at one of the last points of Maria's checklist and the clarity map, accountability. So as soon as you call up Maria, Janine, or I and say, hey, we want to go from good to great, but we're doing this little thing, calling up the coach gives you a sense of accountability as well. And then we've got Janine with your beautiful clarity map, taking one action step, one goal, and as you said, we can do more. I think we've just about wrapped it up, but what's next?
Great question.
So I'd like to really pass the ball over to you, Bill, Golden Seed, Pula, Isabel. Can I get a couple of the names in here? Ja, I can get Tiffany, good to see you again. Catherine, would you guys please like to ask a question or perhaps something about your journey? Because we're not going to be happy if you don't get more greatness.
Absolutely.
Is that a saboteur?
What?
Are we being a
Which one?
pleaser? Or are we judging? Come on, questions?
Don't be shy. I'm sure we said some things that were not clear. I'm sure there's more that we could have, delved on.
Why do we often give up on our goals? Thank you, Jack.
That's a good one, Jackie. Adrian, do you want to take that one or do you want me?
I'll give it a little short burst and then you can jump in. I think one problem there, Jackie, is we're often busy in the ego system rather than the ecosystem. If we set our goals from an ego standpoint, like, I want something for status, or I want something for money, or I want something for achievement, our goal, or we could even sit down, we might be able to do a clarity map. We'll probably realize doing the clarity map, this is a bit of an ego goal. So if we're doing ego goals, they tend to be more short-lived. When we step back and take in the bigger context of our whole life, or perhaps as Golden Seed may have said, a lifetime goal, then we're able to get a far more ecological goal. And the ecological goals are more sustainable and long-term. But there's a bit more to it, perhaps.
There is, and also, in my opinion, is, I think I've spoken about this 1,000 times probably, but I'm sure you all remember a time where you set a goal that you were extremely excited about and you couldn't wait to get started. Very few people think about that when they set a goal. And I personally think that having a goal being something that you are excited about, it's quite important because things will go wrong. Things will be difficult. And if you're already setting a goal that is something that, because your neighbor is doing the same, or because you think you have to do it, or because it's only natural that you have to do it, but you don't really care, it's going to be so much harder. So we don't have time here to go into, the purpose and the why and your intrinsic motivation to get things done. But setting a goal that's something, as Adrian said, it's ecological. How is that goal fitting with your life and your purpose and your, dreams and aspirations? If my aspiration is to be an astronaut and I set myself a 5-year goal of becoming an accountant, maybe I'll be successful. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely going to be much, much harder to align the accountant with my going to space. Unless I become the first accountant in space, I guess. But it's not, let's say, a direct correlation. So sometimes we set goals because we think that is what people want us to do, especially family. A lot of people, family pressure is extremely hard to deal with. Sometimes we set goals because that's what everybody does. That's what everybody, 1st of January, everybody wants to be healthier and go to the gym. It's not a bad goal. I don't think anybody could argue for being less healthy, but maybe it's not, going to the gym is not the way that you can get healthier, better, and with less effort. I don't know. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on goal setting, and I could speak about it forever. So I'm just gonna. I saw there's a different question somewhere.
Well, you could, and it actually ties into what Tiffany's asking next, which was how to figure out what our true goal is.
Oh, darling Tiffany, how much time do you have?
That's incredibly valuable, but I'd like to point out we may have a deeper true goal or a true purpose in our life. Now, I'm not going to talk about clarifying what that is. We've done it in the past, but that's a very great subject and big subject. I'd like to briefly clarify that sometimes we do believe in a deeper purpose, or we have a calling, but we have a roadblock or an obstacle. Perhaps a judger, perhaps we need to do some NLP process to integrate it, rather than what's suppressed keeps coming back. So what we might need to do is bring in and integrate, or perhaps you know, adjust the some modalities and wipe out some of the fears. But more so, clarifying our purpose is extremely valuable, but also getting rid of the roadblocks. Some people were told that they were never going to be good at. Some people were told they couldn't do because that's for boys, or that's for girls, or you're not smart enough. We're not from that kind of family. People from around here don't do that. No. Clarifying your purpose, wonderful. Getting rid of those obstacles and those limiting beliefs, I tend to do that first, personally. When people work with me, I say no changing job for 2 months. They're not allowed to change a job for 2 months, because those first 2 months we clear the obstacles. And once we clear the obstacles, a lot of the times the purpose becomes more clear.
Agree, absolutely agree. There is, you know, as there is the self-awareness part in order to get to the next level, there is making sure that before we even can see what the goal is, we clear some of the debris that can even stop us from actually seeing the goal. For Tiffany, just the first thing that comes to mind is, what do you mean by true goal? What does a true goal mean to you? Is it true because it is the closest to your purpose? Is it true because is that the one that feels right? Because there's 1,000 things that, you know, you could ask yourself about what is your true goal. Are you asking yourself, what is your purpose in this life? If so, we might need more than 10 minutes to find that out. But I think that one way to interpret that question could be, what is the goal that, you know, aligns with your values? That could be, what's it called? The goal that I'm 100% sure and always happy to fight for. It's a great goal. That is some, yeah.
Maria, have you shared with any of your people the 6 core human needs model?
No, but I can find it on the
Wonderful.
internet. Do you have it?
Yeah, I remember you took some people through this some time ago. So just quickly, guys, this is a model Maria, I, and a few others are quite comfortable in. And if you like to, we can share this model real quick and briefly. You have some core needs, okay? We all have core needs, and one of our core needs is certainty. We want certainty in life. Certainty with some things, but we also want variety. And that variety or uncertainty is what we call the second need. So these are kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So first we want to have certainty in our life, and then we want uncertainty. Some people get kind of stuck in their career, or they're stuck with their goals because they're afraid to leave certainty. Now, your ability to handle uncertainty will determine how far you can go in life. Because if you want to go far, then we need to get into uncertainty. So what Maria and I often do with our people is we get them to measure. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much certainty are you feeling in your career? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much uncertainty or variety are you feeling from your career? So we get a bit of an assessment right there. Now, a lot of people, when they're unhappy, boom, we can see it right there. Now, once those needs are met, certainty, uncertainty, we move on to the third need, which is kind of like connection or love. Okay, so from 1 to 10, how much love and connection are you feeling in work or from your career? Next, significance or respect, importance. How much significance are you gaining from your career, or how much significance are you getting from your work? 1 to 10. Now, if people aren't getting significance at work, they're not really going to feel significant at work, and maybe they'll turn up, but they're not really going to enjoy it. If people go to work and they have no connections there, well, it's work, but there's no connections. So people will go searching for that stuff outside of work. Now, if in your work you get certainty, uncertainty, love or connection, and significance, you're going to be pretty happy in your work. You'll be pretty happy in your work. Now, once those things are need, you got your certainty, uncertainty, love, connections, friends, significance, importance. What's next? Growth. Are you growing in your work? Do you have opportunities to grow? And a lot of people leave because they don't have opportunities to grow. And we also get, coaches and teachers, managers coming in to do more training with us because they want to grow. After you grow, which is a wonderful thing, well, you're not really going to be growing or focus on growing if you feel insignificant. You're not going to be focused on growing if you don't feel any love and connection. If you don't feel any love and connection with people, you're going to be focused on those needs first. So you see, you don't even get down to these needs unless they're met elsewhere. So now the growth can be met. Perhaps you do additional training, or you have a mentor or a coach. You start growing more, you feel great. And then what happens is, just about everyone we've worked with, they want to share it. They go and share it with their friends. They contribute, which is the last human need. The need to give, the need to share, the need to contribute. Now, if you like to be an astronaut, you could consider how being an astronaut could fulfill all those needs. Could it? Now, if you really want to find good long-term motivation, if you have a calling, it may involve fulfillment. Fulfillment will generally have a level of contribution to it. Our real deep callings, if our deep callings have all these needs in it, or our goal has a lot of these needs, it'll be easier to pursue. So sometimes what Maria or I might do with someone is we'll take them through this, and we can quickly take them through this for any area of their life: career, relationships, health, love, and quickly pinpoint where, and we can quickly pinpoint a weakness and change that with you. Or we do something like that, and then I imagine Maria might pull out the clarity map. And I have a different kind of thing that I would use. So that is the 6 core human needs. I hope you wrote them down. If not, contact Estrelita, myself, or Maria to take you through that later on. That is wonderful, and that can also point to a weakness, wherever the lowest score is, or if you don't have any high scores down in growth, contribution, you might want to work on stabilizing the higher needs. Apologies, that's fast, but I hope a little ding might go off, or you can reach out later on for more information about that.
Absolutely. And as Adrian was saying, it's all a progression. Like, it's like the pyramid, Maslow's pyramids of needs. If you are struggling to find food, you're not going to concern yourself with the well-being of humanity, because you are concerned about finding food for yourself and family. So it takes step by step. It's all step by step. You can just leap into things. Which I want to say a couple of things about the comments in the chat. First, from Jackie, that says, like, if it takes a long time to reach the goal, like over 1 year or more, actually a lot of people will fail. And the long process is boring, painful, and needs strong motivation. I don't disagree with you, Jackie. I just think there's an easier way to do things. Why do you give yourself a goal that takes a year? Break down that goal into something that takes a month. Something that takes 2 weeks. You're not going to take the 1 year goal and achieve it in 2 weeks. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if your goal takes 5 years, it must be a pretty good big goal, because you think it takes 5 years or 1 year, it's going to be pretty complicated. How can you make that broken down into smaller steps? Because I absolutely agree with you. If you give yourself a long-term goal with a very long deadline, then yes, people will lose motivation. It will get complicated. You will lose track of where you are, and that's going to lead to failure. Yes. Hence, make it smaller. Make it very small. Make it so small that you can see it, next week, next month. Then you'll never lose sight of it. And even if it's like 0.02% of your biggest goal, it's still better than 0%. And that ties into Catherine, that says, if you have various goals and aspirations you feel for yourself, career-wise, what suggestion do you have for prioritizing? Catherine, you have no idea who you just asked that question, because I can talk about prioritizing until the cows come home, but we don't have that time. So I will just like to share my favorite question, which is not my question, but from a guy who's very smart and has written a book. This guy's name is Gary Keller, and you can look it up on most social media or on most, my connection is unstable. I'm back. Hopefully you guys can hear me now.
Gary Keller, you were saying?
Gary Keller, sorry. Yeah, my internet is being weird. So basically Keller wrote The One Thing, and the question is called the focusing question. I'm going to say that slowly. What is the one thing that you can do so that everything else is easier or unnecessary? If you have trouble prioritizing, use that question to ask yourself. You may have 5 things that you want to do at the same time. Chances are that some of these things are connected. They may not be directly connected, but because they all concern you, you might find that there is one thing that if you solve that, or if you do that, everything else might become easier, or some of the other things you need or want to do, or feel like you're struggling, maybe those will just disappear or be solved automatically. So it's not an easy question to answer, but it's an extremely valuable one. And for those who are interested, please do go and read that book. It's an extremely good book. That is the nugget of gold from that book, the question, but there's so many other stories in that book. There's very examples about how to use that question, from what phone call to make every day to what is your purpose in life. So you can go all the extremes. But that would be my straight answer for how to prioritize better. Hope that helps, Catherine. Yes, I can.
And I was celebrating because we incorporated that in the NLP training at the start. Now we have goals, problems, and a one thing that, if done, would make everything else irrelevant. I was given the book a long time ago, and just managed to integrate some of it.
Golden Seed is making my evening by typing out the important urgent matrix, which is also a very good prioritization tool. But that can feel a little bit overwhelming if you have a lot of things to do. It can feel quite overwhelming to fill that out and then start deciding what you have to do. But that is also quite good once you know what is on your list. Yes, well done, Golden Seed.
Just because I think we've got 2 other coaches in the house here, just for the last course we started 5 weeks back, I gave an example of those guys of the one thing. So this one thing could be relevant for a coach. So a coach has a lot to learn, a lot of skills, a lot of business skills, working, marketing, etc., before they go out and get clients. So the one thing for some of the coaches, I discussed, well, what if you were to be doing a workshop on how to become a coach in 6 months' time? So that in 6 months' time, if they're doing a workshop on how to become a coach, that means that they would have had to become a coach in the process. the last time I did hypnosis training, my one thing was to be delivering advanced hypnosis training 2 months later. I did the hypnosis training in the back of my mind. I know I have to master this skill, and did another course afterwards so that I could deliver on the subject 2 months later. That's an example of the one thing. But we're out of time and we're already 4 minutes over. I'd like to thank you all very much for coming here. We keep on time, on schedule. Thank you all very, very much for coming. Maria, can you please drop your email in the chat window if anyone wants a clarity map?
Sure. If you guys want anything, just drop me an email.
And I won't put your email on YouTube just in case people kind of like, you know, those.
It's okay. It's my business email, so.
In case those bots.
Business inquiries welcome. But yeah, I put my email in the thingy. If anybody wants anything, I'm happy to send you the clarity map. It's a tool that I use with my clients, and I'm happy to share that because it can be useful. If you want to do your own and do your own writing and coloring on that, please feel free. But I just have a copy.
There you go, guys. Get your clarity map from Maria, or you can buzz Janine if you want to talk about some saboteurs, or you want to be a coach trainer. Holla. Darko, thanks for having your camera on. Golden Seed, thanks for the contribution. Jackie, Catherine, loved your questions. Tiffany, thank you as well. Lily, thanks for being here first. Yeah, Sugamama, Bill, great to see you again.
Thank you, Adrian, for hosting. This was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening if you are in an evening place, and have a good day if you are in a day place.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.